Welcome. Today's topic is how to reprint an invoice. I'm going to start by going to menu selection A, point of sale, then number 6, invoice archive file, and finally letter A, reprint invoices. Now before you start using this selection, you're going to want to know whether the ticket that you're trying to print is a finalized invoice or whether it's in a pending state. A pending invoice is something that was on special order, a pick ticket, a hold ticket, perhaps a quote. Finalized invoices are those that you've already hit the Control W or the F12 key in point of sale, you've already taken the money for, and so on. In the upper left-hand corner, you have the ability to change whether the ticket is coming from the finalized archive or whether it's pending by clicking on the T in the upper left corner. That's the default. If I click on that, you'll notice that one of my choices is for pending and one of my choices is for archive. And I can change that to pending to get into my hold ticket area. I'm going to use the T, the default archive. At any point when you're in this screen, you can click on the appropriate box that you'd like to go to fill in the information that you need. You do not need to go through each of the fields, but I'm going to do that for this example. Once I select whether my ticket is coming from the archive or from my pending ticket area, the cursor moves over to the right-hand side of the screen. My report options default to a no, and the question that's being answered is, do I want to run the report in the background? If you're running a large group of invoices, perhaps you're reprinting invoices for the life of a customer, you want to change that to yes. That will throw this into the background so that your screen will not be held up while these tickets are being reprinted. However, 90% of the time when people come into the reprint invoices, they're reprinting a single invoice or a few invoices, or you're wanting to display this invoices on the screen first. So we're most of the time going to leave that a no. And you'll notice that my cursor then moved to output to. My choices are to output to a screen or output to a printer. Output to the printer will immediately print the invoice that I'm looking for. Output to screen will allow me to look at the invoice first on my screen before I print it. Many times this is what you want to use because remember your invoice reference numbers can roll over. So if perhaps you're looking for an invoice number 300, it's a possibility that you've had that invoice number more than once. It'll show each of the appropriate invoices on your screen, and then you can pick at that point which one that you want to either email to the customer or print to a paper printer. Once I choose my output, my cursor is going to go to the left-hand side, and the invoice task information box contains the defaults of what my printer numbers are and what my batch number is to print any of my invoices. Unless you are aware of a reason that you should change those, I would leave those alone. Same on the other side, invoice options. Your invoice options are coming from the default setup screen, and I would suggest, unless you've been instructed to adjust those, that you would leave those alone. When you first come into this screen, it's not actually going to throw you up into the top portion of the screen. It's going to assume that all of the settings are your default settings, are the ones that you want to use. It's going to start you at the start number field, and all I need to do here is type in my reference number. If you have a reference number that starts with a number of leading zeros, you do not need to enter those leading zeros into the screen. Notice that the system will automatically populate my stop number field with my reference number. I can always adjust that number if I want to, and you're going to want to make sure that if you adjust that number, that the range of invoices that you're displaying makes sense. So the start number would be before the stop number. The screen will show each of those invoices as long as I have output to screen, and then you can pick and choose which invoices that you actually print to paper. I'm going to skip the rest of the screen for now and click on the Begin button. Notice that my ticket immediately comes up. In my upper left-hand corner, if you check out my date, my invoice date is 2016, so this is the only reference number of this that I have available. If I had multiples, the buttons over here would light up. Prior ticket and next ticket will allow me to scroll through any of the tickets that match my criteria. F5, the new ticket blue button, will allow me to just start this process over again. The Control E email button will allow me to email this to any recipient, and my print button will allow me to print it to the printer that was set up in the previous screen, typically my default invoice printer. To get to the main menu, I just press the escape key, or I click on this green button in the lower right corner, and that's going to throw me back out to my main menu. I'm going to click on F5 New Ticket to go back to the reprint screen, and I'm going to bypass the range for this example. My cursor goes over to the Sort Fields area. Field letters are 2 to 3 digit characters that define the information in each of the fields within the invoice archive file or within the pending archive. And if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to see a Shift F1 yellow help button. If you click on that, it's going to show you your field letters, what your options are, and on the far right there is a description of what each of those mean. There are a number of pages of available fields that you can use to filter the tickets that you're finding in either your pending file or in your archive file. I would say that there are probably 5 choices that people use most of the time. A/N is your account number, DAT is your date field, GTN is your grand total dollar amount, CLC is your clerk code, and then TRC is your transaction code. So in most cases, in my experience, those are the type of information that people are trying to filter on to report, to bring up their invoices. I'm going to press the Home key in the lower right-hand corner to go back to my screen, and you can use any of the fields either that I mentioned or that are in that list to sort on in the upper right corner here. If you type in a field letter that you want to use as a sort field, the Sort in Ascending Order field becomes available, and you can sort in ascending or descending order. The last choices here is the Compare Option box, and this is how we are able to filter which invoices that we're looking for. So in the field, you're going to type in the field letter that you are looking to filter on. I'm going to type in an A/N, meaning I'm looking for the account number. The operation here allows you to use an equal sign, meaning account number is equal to whatever my account number is. The pound sign allows me to use an operation that means not equal. I don't want to bring up a certain account number's tickets, or I'm not looking for a certain clerk's invoices. That's when I would use this. Greater than and less than allow you to filter things like dollar amounts. I'm looking for tickets greater than $100, less than $5, or I'm looking for tickets that are greater than and equal to $100 or less than and equal to $5 as an example. For my example, I'm going to use equals to. And in the value field, I'm going to type in my account number. So when I type in my account number and hit the Enter key, this is all I need to fill out in this area, and I can click on the Begin button. It will bring up for me every invoice that I have in my archive for account number 130. Another suggestion that I gave you was to be able to filter by date. So when I type in the date, I can type in an equal sign, and I can either filter the date information like this, typing in the year 2016, asterisk, 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 and pressing my Enter key. That'll look for any tickets in the year 2016. If I'm looking for any tickets in June of 2016, I'll type in 2016 06 asterisk, asterisk, and that will give me any tickets in the month of June. So those asterisks are wildcards. Those will look for any of the days within the particular date, a month or a particular year that I've specified. The other way that I can use date is greater than or less than. So if I type in my greater than field, I can say I'm looking for anything in January of 2016. So I'm going to say I'm looking for something that's greater than 2015, 12/31. And I'm looking for a date that is less than 2016, 02/01. So that's going to give me anything in the month of January 2016. When I filled in that field, on the right-hand side in the logical operator, my options were or, and, or qualifies. When I filled out the previous screen, I used the logical operator A for and, meaning I'd like to look for something that was greater than 2015-12/31 and less than 2/1 of 2016. I have the option also in this field to use the O, and that stands for or. So let's say that I'm looking for information in 2014 or 2016 for a particular account. I'm going to type in date equals 2016 asterisk 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 asterisk. I'm going to press O for or, and if you click on it, you have a drop-down menu of all of your options. In this next field, I'm going to type that I'm looking for 2014 asterisk 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 asterisk. Notice the order doesn't matter. And in this case, I'm going to look for where my account number is 130. And by setting up the screen this way, I'm looking for tickets that were created in 2014 or 2016 for my account number 130. If you're using O's and A's or ors and ands in these logical operators, you want to make sure that the ors come first. Last option here. I want to look for summer months. I want to look for sales that happened for a particular account or for all accounts within the summer months of 2015 and 2016. So I'm going to type in where date is greater than 2014-05/31 and date is less than 2014-09/01, and I'm going to use, instead of and or, qualifies. So I'm going to click on the qualifies, and I'm going to put date is greater than 2016-05/31 and date is less than 2016-09/01. What this allowed me to do is it allowed me to look at tickets created in June, July, and August in 2014 and 2016, but it excluded any tickets for 2015 or any tickets that weren't in this particular date range. If I used ands and ors to create this, I would have had to run this twice. So that Q as in qualifies field on the right-hand side basically lets me look for two unrelated time periods, two unrelated grand totals, two unrelated pieces of information. And if I click on the begin button, you would see tickets then June, July, and August of 2014, and then June, July, and August of 2016 only. On this screen, you've got a couple of buttons at the bottom. Escape is to exit. Print screen prints this screen only. It is not printing the results of your query. It is simply printing this screen. So if you wanted to set up a screen for your employees so they knew what field letters were most used, you could absolutely do that by clicking on this button to print the screen. Control W to begin begins my query and will bring back any of the tickets that I want. Remember, in the upper right corner I chose output to screen, so it's going to show them to me on my screen first. F10 save parameters, I would suggest, if it's even on your screen, that you don't touch it, because the parameters that are set up on your invoice screen were set up by your system administrator. So I would suggest leaving those alone. And finally, I'm going to click on that Control W to begin just to show you. In the upper left corner, ignore the entry date. I did not search by entry date. I searched by invoice date. So notice the invoice date on this ticket is 6/16 of 2014, and that the button on the right, Next Ticket, is now available for me to use. When I click on Next Ticket, my next ticket is 8/13 of 2014, and my prior ticket button is now available, so I can flip back and forth between these two invoices. If I continue to click on the Next Ticket button, you'll notice that my invoice dates go into 2016 and 2014 in that same date range that I had specified before. And if I get to the end of the file, I'm going to have a message pop up on my screen that says End of File, so I'll know that I have no more tickets that are waiting there. To finish, finally, after I've printed or emailed these to the correct recipients, I'm going to click on the Escape key, and that's going to throw me back out to my invoice screen. My main menu here will allow me to get back to any of the other screens that I need to go into, and if I accidentally click that, I can simply go back into Reprint Invoices and start my search over again. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to call SBC Training at 800-829-4722, or you can email us at sbctraining@autolog.com. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.